Steam just recently wrapped up their first Nets Fest of the year, which in case you don't know is a week-long event where indie games take the spotlight with hundreds of demos making their way to Valve's storefront. It happens 3 times a year, so if you missed out, don't worry, you'll get another chance in the summer and fall. There were a ton of great games to check out, but as soon as I heard this one game finally got a bona fide demo, yeah, I had to drop everything and check it out. That game is of course Rotwood. This is a 4-player roguelike hack and slash dungeon crawler featuring both local and online co-op. It was originally announced way back in 2022, and ever since then, it's lived rent-free in my head. It just looked so freaking good. Between the amazing art style and the combat, yeah, I've built up a lot of hype for it in my head, I can admit that. But you're here to know, does it live up to that hype? And I'm happy to say it absolutely does. Despite only playing a little over an hour, I was able to get through the 2 expeditions available on the demo and defeat all of the bosses. But let's get some basics out of the way first. After creating your character, you'll be sent out on an expedition, which follows a typical roguelike structure. You'll go room to room, clearing out enemies, getting powers, upgrading those powers or gear until you eventually make it to the final boss of that expedition. After which you'll be able to go back to town, regroup, and unlock a whole new biome to explore. The gameplay loop should sound pretty familiar if you've played other co-op roguelikes like Ember Knights or Ship of Fools. Where Rotwood starts to stand apart from those games and really any other co-op roguelike we've played is in the depths of its combat. I'm gonna get into the weeds a bit here because I think what Rotwood is doing with its combo system and enemy design is really the secret sauce of this game. At its core, Rotwood is a 2.5D brawler, so it takes a second to get used to the depth perception needed to land a hit or dodge one. But once you get the hang of it, you can really start to play around with combos. Each weapon has a light, heavy, and charge attack, but you can combine those to pull off some sick moves. Like if I use a heavy attack after 2 light attacks, I land a sick double front flip attack. Then I discovered if I combine a dodge roll with a heavy attack and hold it at the end, I land a continuous home run swing. Playing around with my weapon and seeing all the different moves I could land in battle was genuinely one of my favorite parts of this whole experience. Now onto enemy design. One thing you'll quickly notice is the wide variety of enemies. You'll face roly-poly guys with ranged attacks, big brutes, weird little healing stem guys, and my personal favorite, these stacked onion dudes that can slam both forward and backwards. What really makes these enemies special though are all the unique animations and attack patterns. Take this toad guy for example. First he plants a mine out of his belly. Then he berates me with a claw attack. He follows that up with a different 4-hit combo, and finally, if I dodge his claw attack, he falls to the ground, giving me the opportunity to wail on him. I find this stuff really impressive. Not only does this game have an amazing art style, but each enemy having such unique attack patterns is really freaking cool. Now, everything I've just mentioned really comes together in the boss fights. Man, the bosses I've played this early on were seriously so good. Each one had a cinematic intro and really challenged us with some crazy attack patterns like this root attack that you had to dodge through the music, or this crazy wind attack from the Owlitzer boss. All in all, I could talk about the gameplay for hours, but we should probably move on to something else. Finally, let's talk about how all this comes together in co-op. Given how complex some of these enemies can be and how you're bombarded with waves of them in a room, you definitely want to work together and stack damage on the bigger targets. This is where I can see some more complex maneuvers coming into play, like one of us using a knockback attack to briefly stun the enemy while the rest of us wail on him. One thing I haven't mentioned is this game can be pretty tough. Even the tiniest enemy can still do a bit of damage, and you only have 1 heal for your whole expedition, unless you refill your healing flags at a vendor or through some power, of course. Thankfully, if one person uses their heal, it brings up a small radius on the floor which heals everyone inside. You definitely want to make use of this to get the most out of your team's heals. But even if you die, you can always be revived. A funny twist on this is that if you die, you can actually flop around with your dead body to position yourself better for your teammates to pick you back up. A really great touch, honestly. But if you want to avoid being a helpless Magikarp on the field, then you really want to think about which powers you're picking up after a battle. I came away away really impressed with the variety of powers I saw from my brief time with the demo. You do have your standard array of plus 8% crit damage and the like, but there's also some more unique ones like this Thinking with Portals power that lets me place linked portals by using my dodge. This was a lot of fun to play around with, as not only can your teammates use the portals, but you can even dodge into enemies to teleport them away too. I also saw a handful of co-op specific powers, like one which deals 300 damage to all enemies in the room upon reviving a teammate. Once you find a handful of powers you really like, you can actually upgrade them by finding this NPC on your run. There's a bunch of NPCs you can find actually, like one which refills your potion, or a shopkeeper that sells armor and weapons. Buying my first new armor and weapon was actually a big turning point in the demo for me. The chest piece I got quickly notified me that I had just changed weight class and was now considered agile. And yeah, they weren't kidding. I could now dash around the battlefield significantly faster than before, and it completely changed the way I was playing. I wish I got the chance to try a new weapon, but even the different hammer I bought plays slightly different to my default one. I've already seen some crazy weaponry though, as even one of my teammates was sporting some sort of crazy cannon blaster. It's easy to see how my friends and I could come up with widely unique builds with different weight classes, weapons, and find some synergies between our power selection too. So, as you can probably tell, I had a blast playing Rotwood. We've played a ton of co-op roguelites and almost all of them are great. Each one tends to do a specific thing exceedingly well. But as I sit here thinking about my time with Rotwood, I can't help but think that this one really has it all. It totally nails combat, enemy design, art style, roguelite elements, and especially co-op play. But before I shut up about it, here's just a couple final tidbits to chew on. Few games in this genre truly let you customize your character, and I really enjoyed making my unique wolf dude in Rotwood. You can actually make multiple characters, but the best part is that you can play as any of your unique characters in a friend's lobby, and everything will transfer back to your own game. It's a very flexible system, and we love to see it. And lastly, just another kudos to the presentation here. The art style is just awesome, music is great, and even the writing got some laughs out of me. And that wraps up my impressions of Rotwood. Hope you're as excited for this title as I am, guys, and I really hope we get a firm release date real soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Like last year, we're hoping to cover multiple Steam NetsFest titles in a video probably sometime this summer. So if you don't want to miss out on that, consider subscribing, following us on our socials, or joining our Discord server. And if you want to go the extra mile, please check out our Patreon and merch store. You can find the links for everything down below. And extra thank you to all our Patreon producers. We'll catch you next time on another episode of The Co-op Bros.